This is a bit of an, excuse me, informative slash educational video made with lots of different clients in mind, actually. And this kind of can save a lot of explanation on site for why I take a particular strategy with particular forest management strategies. This is a client of ours in the Ramble. And this client and this client and a client back here went three ways and bought this pine stand. I think the idea was, in order to protect it from being developed, they decided to buy it. Two of the clients got in touch with me and asked me what I would do with it to mitigate risk. So I'm going to walk in here and show you some of the things that we did, and remember, the whole purpose was to mitigate risk here. I've already walked past one tree that we removed, that stump over there. That was a 25-inch diameter pine. Here's another 25 diameter inch pine, and then there's several others. There's one there too, hidden by the pine straw mulch, and here too. So far we've seen 4 or 5. Here's another one. Some of these were dead, some of them were lightning struck. All of them were tall enough to reach my client's house there, and or this house over here. This was a big lightning struck pine here. The largest of them was over here. It was a giant of the forest. It had had a tear out a long time ago, possibly when all these houses were built. But it's a giant. You can see the ground rising up in front of it because it was so big. So a huge leader on it had torn out a long time ago, and that made it structurally unsound permanently, basically. It wasn't really at risk of falling and hitting this house or this house, but it could have hit this one. And it did lean that direction a little bit. So there was no leaving it there. Now check out the canopy above here. There's no canopy because the tree filled that entire space, or most of it. Why didn't it fail previous to us taking it down? It didn't fail because it's got all of its buddies here, and all of its buddies work together to keep it relatively safe. Now, all that being said, I couldn't, as a certified arborist with tree risk assessment qualification training, say in good stead that this is a safe tree to leave here. It had a big tear out, it leaned hard, and it was the biggest guy in here. It had a lot of defects going against it. So I had to, client here is asking, what do we do to manage risk? Well, it's sadly removed that big tree. Okay, so far, so good. We then went ahead and took out all the trees that we needed to. What has happened in the after the all the takedowns, the controlled takedowns we did, you'll notice this guy. He had a lean before, but now it's been exacerbated. I think. I'm not 100% sure on that, but one way or the other, I've seen this numerous times before, and this is a pretty good example of it happening again. When you change stand dynamics by quote unquote thinning out the stand, you open up trees that have not felt wind ever before, and they take a hit and they sometimes fail. So in other words, here's another way of looking at it. This guy right here who had the big tear out, if we had removed all the trees around it instead, that one would have failed. I've got no doubt in my mind, because the stand works together. So basically, I generally tell clients that there is zero good that comes out of thinning a pine stand. On the other hand, if you've got particular hazards to mitigate, if this tree were leaning over the house, then we would take it out. But here, it's like, this tree will fail at some point in the near future, and we'll clean it up. But it wasn't exposed to this risk before of failure because it had a whole bunch of other guys protecting it and working together. So this is where a lot of times people get the idea that pines are more likely to fail than other trees. This is a falsehood. It is a broadly spread bit of misinformation. And here, this is just, it's true. I know this from my experience that that's misinformation. But also, what leads us to believe this fallacy, notice that we have a monoculture here. It's white pine. And across the road, it's white pine. White pines are ubiquitous in our area. They are not a bad tree in and of themselves. But when we start poking at the forest and changing stand dynamics, we can definitely open a can of worms. And I'm not speaking here to defects, like say, let's say that this is the only pine in here and everything else is oak. There's little chance that taking out this pine would affect those oaks given how much canopy it has. It's just a poor canopy ratio. So I hope this all makes sense. I'm just trying to give you a good thing to think about before our meeting, mainly because taking down pines for the sake of removing pines because of what people say all the time, that they're shallow rooted and they fail all the time, is untrue. That's more of we've made them weak and there's a whole lot more of them around than any other tree species. So we may see them fail more often, or you may. But I see them fail with as much frequency as oak trees, maples, everything else. Whenever we get involved as humans, we can start screwing things up pretty big. So hopefully this comes off as informational and not offensive in any way, shape, or form. It's just my thoughts, and to save you a little bit of time while we're on site looking at your pines. Thanks.